Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to eHeroes. This is the 250th episode, 5 years in the making. And as you can see, I have a fantastic guest who's been with me before on episode 150. She's the brilliant Jocelyn Stewart. And as you can see, if you're watching this on video, you'll see these shirts that says better than yesterday. And that's the theme of today's episode. And yeah, we kind of look like the Wonder Twins. Um, and thanks to a guy in Atlanta that I won't name for these shirts. These are great. Although mine's a little crooked, but we'll talk about that later. But thanks, Jocelyn, for being here. And for all those who don't know, Jocelyn protects our soldiers against all types of accusations. And if you haven't gotten a chance, go back and watch episode 150 because a lot of brilliant stuff was dropped. But we're going to talk about her adventures over the last 2 years and how she's increased her business through TikTok, through books, through podcasts, and just the whole theme of being better than yesterday. So, I mean, that was a long intro, but thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, as always.
Yeah. So these shirts, we were in Atlanta at an event. I won't name it. I won't even. But we were there, and they were throwing out these shirts, and I thought maybe one day I'm going to use this shirt for something. And here we are. And
I usually use mine to sleep in. It's really soft. But you asked me, could I dig mine out? And I was like, yep, it's in my drawer with my pajamas. So there it was.
Yeah, sometimes I've worn this before, but my laundry tends to chew things up, and the it's, I don't know. I guess he printed out. I don't know how many he made up, but there were thousands of them at this event, and he was just tossing them out. But had it not been for that event, I don't think you'd have done things differently the way you have over even the last year, because your TikTok had just started like a couple weeks before that event.
Yeah, I think it was just under 30 days prior.
Yeah,
because
I just took off.
I set that event to try to get my first 1,000 followers because TikTok has, as you know, these various sort of things that they'll lay out for you as you hit different benchmarks. And the benchmark that I was trying to hit was to be able to go live. And so I was working very hard up until the event, and then even at the event to get that 1,000th follower so I could go live.
And I was there. I witnessed that thousand follower mark, and it was incredible because here you took a medium that a lot of people even today are like, I don't know if I want to get on that TikTok China stuff, but it's just been incredible for you. And I think when I last looked this morning, it was up to 77,000 followers, and that's incredible for someone just talking about military law. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that want to know what's going on.
There are, and what I've found has been interesting, as people have commented and just sort of come into the content and become followers, is that it's not just people with a military background. So that I think we're all pretty aware that true crime dramas and true crime, people really want to get into understanding inside scoop about that sort of thing. And I've even had people from Great Britain and New Zealand and Australia chime in and say, I have no interest whatsoever in the US military, but I find your stories really fascinating. And so that has been fun to sort of bridge oceans and sort of introduce people to this idea.
But I mean, you have probably, I mean, I didn't count, but you probably at least have 1,000 videos on TikTok. And some of them are sequence stories, some of them are just one-off stories, but how do you remember them all? I mean, do you keep notes? Do you have, and how do you not repeat the stuff?
Right. So I do have what I call kind of my content buckets, right? Like the different classifications for the things that I post. The few videos that have gone sort of viral have been more PSA type, informational, just sort of a snippet of something that I feel like would be helpful to people in whatever walk of life. And then, of course, the content stories of my prior cases. What probably surprises most people is that I would say 98% of me telling those stories is just from memory. I'll go back and maybe refresh to take a look at maybe a chart sheet. But the cases, they're a part of me. They are as much a part of my life as anything. And so those are definitely the things that are, and I think I could tell the same trial story in 3 different ways, right? Highlight what was either funny or concerning or just memorable. But yeah, I don't typically, when I don't script it, I know that frustrates some people. I get some folks on there who are like, you're rambling, you're annoying. The majority of the people who actually like my content like it because it's real and unscripted and uncut and just sort of me telling the stories and having visible reactions when things hit me in different ways, right? And it's not scripted, that's not rehearsed, that's just me.
Yeah.
So
And I'm glad things worked out the way they did, because I remember, before TikTok, a lot of the videos that you were putting out were very professional, were very scripted, were very, dare I say, boring.
sure.
Now they're very enlightened, they're real, they're raw. People can engage with them and they feel like they've become your friend. And you've gotten more relaxed while you're doing it. I mean, you've made videos in the car, outside, and it just, people can get into and relate to your videos so much better.
No, I definitely think so. And it's been interesting, some of it mostly has been really, really positive, the response and people wanting to engage and sort of share. Like I knew a buddy that happened to, oh my gosh. And, just, and really lots of outpouring of thanks and gratitude for shedding light on a narrative that's not, I think, been told, right? Like the going narrative, at least since 2007, has been that our military is filled with evildoers and that the command are toxic people who are, hiding all of the evildoers. And that's been a real heartburn for me that, I take great pride in the service that I gave to my country and I take great pride in the service that I see in so many. And it hurts me to my core that the public at large and Congress and all these different narratives have really taken off to really denigrate, I think, the lasting impression of what is in the military. And so I think, when people engage and people connect with the fact that they've also seen injustice, I think that tends to really unify people. There's also, been some of it negative, and I don't mean negative toward me. Like I think, and as of late, what has been really kind of transformative for me is to be very well aware that as I've grown this followership, to over 77,000 people, that where I kind of cast energy and cast focus has a great deal of weight. I like just a couple of weeks ago, I had posted something that was very hyper technical, and it was in response to people asking me questions about, a current event. What's your take on this? And I sort of took a step back and said, let's just do some educational stuff, right? So I was explaining vicarious liability, which is just a concept under the law where even the principal person who's doing the thing can also have co-actors, right? Who've maybe aided, encouraged, abetted, whatever, and that they can also be criminally responsible for the acts of the actor. And I was just sort of explaining that. And during the course of that, somebody chimed in, claimed to be an attorney, and said I was wrong. And I didn't nuke them, but I just said, I'm always worried and always cognizant that people who are reading the content are like, oh, well, here's another attorney who says something different. Maybe this is a gray area, and this is not a gray area, right? Like this is very much just letter of the law, understanding criminal law as it intersects with the UCMJ in Article 2. And so I did a response video. it was firm, but not mean. And the next thing I know, like just the vitriol that was energized toward that person. Not only did she take down the video or take down the comment, she deleted her entire account. And so I feel like I aided and abetted bullying. And I did not like that. That's not better than yesterday, right? Like that's not what I want to be putting into the world. I wanted to make sure that there was a correct understanding of this principle of law, but I certainly did not intend for her to be on the receiving end of that. And I've definitely seen some concerning infighting, right, within the comments, which I know I'm supposed to like as a content creator because it feeds the algorithm, but that doesn't feel good. And I've even taken some days where I'm like, I don't know if I want to be in this space in this way. But I think it's just so important that as people are looking at social media and what it can do for your business, which is all great, but that we're also just being good to each other as humans and creating space for dialogue, certainly, and even disagreement, but not cruelty. Right. And bullying.
So. And I like the fact that you mentioned that now you're a content creator. 2 years ago, you didn't consider yourself a content creator. You just considered yourself a military lawyer. But now you got to get out there. You got to get in front of people. You got to make videos. You got to, publish stuff and create all kinds of things. And now you consider yourself a content creator, probably first, military lawyer second.
I don't know about that. I don't know if I'll go that far. I mean, I definitely have in this stage of life been far more concerned with ripple effects and policy change and making a difference in that way, right? Because what I always tell people, practitioners in the field, very few people are going to remember the number of cases you tried. They might remember one or two big ones. But I want to be remembered for being somebody who has actually elevated my practice, right? The practice area, made things better, left them better than I found them. And TikTok has been a very interesting tool for that. I've had paralegals and attorneys message me and explain to me that my TikToks are being used to spark debate at like their meetings. Like there'll be a leadership professional development, meeting or an officer professional development with the paralegals too. And they'll say, hey, look, this is the latest messy military lawyer TikTok. Where do you fall on this? What do you think about this? I'm like, what? That's a weird space to be in, but also truly delightful. It's sparking debate.
Right. You 2 years ago or 3 years ago, when your first book came out, Shaping the Battlefield, that was your kind of that gift to the next generation, that this is what's going to spark that debate between them and get them to learn. And then you came out with sequel after sequel. But TikTok is that thing now that's being used immediately.
Right. It has such a right. And it's been interesting to understand, obviously as an attorney, as a trial attorney, I'm always cognizant of how people communicate, how people receive information, because that has to transform the way that I am giving them information, whether I'm standing up and I'm doing an examination or I'm doing a closing argument. How people hear and understand and process information has always been such a huge part of my practice. TikTok has been an interesting extension of that because it's almost like this social experiment where it has caused me to realize people don't want to read, right? People don't want to read. I came across a content creator who literally, what she does is post videos where she's reading Twitter comments about coverage of a case. Like, somebody could go and just read the Twitter comments, but they don't want to. It's just the way that we are digesting information, and also has, shaped the way that I'm approaching my next book. I think we have to always be aware of and seeking out gifts from whatever source we can get them. And I've had such gifts come to me from folks commenting in the TikTok of, hey, if you're going to do a book, I really want it to be an audiobook. I want to hear, and it needs to be your voice.
Right.
My voice. I always thought of my voice through, obviously, getting up in front of a jury, but my voice in writing has been, I write in a certain way. I write with my snark and, whatever else you want to call it, the way that I
Mm-hmm.
bring what I think is truth to power. But like, people want to actually hear the tone of my voice saying this. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I need to figure that out.
Yeah. And,
Um,
and for me, that's the hardest thing to convey to not only lawyers and doctors, because they're so used to writing these institutionalized, grammatically correct stuff. And I said, just use your voice. How you speak is how people are going to comprehend that in paper or print. And they're like, no, that's not how we are taught. And now you're
absolutely.
just saying, it's exactly what you're saying. This is how it has to
Right.
be.
Well, and that was an interesting part of the journey for the book that I'm kind of finishing up right now was I'm, the subject matter is so important to me. It's, the top 12 cases that I've defended and really contributing to this narrative that, hey, look, there
Mm-hmm.
are American heroes out there who've been serving their country diligently, honorably, who suddenly become, subject to these spurious allegations and getting the, having been chosen to guide them through and walk that path with them. I want to tell their stories, and I wanted to tell it obviously in a way that conveys the sincerity and the depth of how genuinely I feel that these people were falsely accused, and as part of the greater narrative to make sure people understand, hey, this happens every day in our country. But also feeling when I was starting to write it that it was super stuffy.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, oh, I need to honor, that's not me. And so I went back kind of to the drawing board and said, no, like, there's a way that I can still be respectful of the topic, but be true to my voice and be true to
Mm-hmm.
the voice that people are now so accustomed to hearing me tell it. And I'm pretty dang proud of it. I've got a couple chapters that I just need to finish. And I know you're chomping at the bit to get a look. It's coming soon. But yeah, that feels really good to sort of have said, okay, I can step into this different space. I
Mm-hmm.
can still honor this topic, but still use my voice.
Yeah. Yeah. And just watching you over the last few years, I know that you are 1,000 times better than you were yesterday. I mean, just the transition over the last a couple of years and everything. If I said, hey, write a book, you're like, okay. If I said, get on a podcast, you're like, okay. And now, granted, I wasn't a big fan of TikTok, but you took that by the reins and you proved everybody wrong. And I'm glad because that has really, I think, made a big difference in who you are, who you become, and the people that you can share your voice to.
No, thank you. And I definitely owe you some credit for that, like pushing the baby bird out of the nest, not necessarily to TikTok, but just to this idea that you don't have to have full hair and makeup and be in the suit and have all the lighting just right, just being real and being authentic. People often ask, why my handle is on TikTok with the messy military lawyer. I'm like, well, first off, there are some messy aspects of my life, not that I often have allowed people, to see. And I also like the dichotomy between this idea of messy and military, right? Military, we
Mm-hmm.
think of very regimented and very organized, and not everybody out there is, but it's certainly conducive to that culture. But really, the messy is an homage to the messiness of life, the realness of it, and sort of shedding the part of me that has been a super big part of my life, where I have demanded perfectionism of myself
Mm-hmm.
and only allowed people to see that, that image.
Yeah.
And so it's been transformative because it's allowed me to step into this very weird space, where people are definitely going to receive and maybe be super critical, maybe not be super critical, maybe be even complimentary, but to step there to say, this is me.
Mm-hmm.
This is really who I am. This is not a character. This is not like when I'm rolling my eyes and when I'm, having these reactions, that's me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little bit scary. to put your whole self out there. And, I still create some boundaries. People are always trying to ask about my personal life. And I'm like,
He doesn't
no,
have
that's
one.
not what this
No.
is for. That's not what this is for. Even my crazy live TikToks late at night when I just do karaoke, like that's for me, but that's not, there's still a part of me
It's
that
funny
I've got.
because 3 years ago you were very guarded. You were, and I'm like, just I need to get you out there just an inch further. And it took some time, but you opened up and I'm telling you, you've done more for yourself than I could ever do, or anybody could ever do, really. But it took time. You had to see it. You had to experience it. And maybe I created a monster.
No, I mean, I think for anybody, watching or anybody listening who is sort of on the fence about it, I
Mhm.
would, what I did was say, like, and I'm such a process person. I said, okay, I don't know about this. I don't know if it's going to work, but I am going to commit to 3 videos a day for 30 days
Mhm.
and I'll reevaluate. And that was on the cusp. And that's when I hit my 1,000. And I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to keep going. And then 10,000 and 50,000. It was just kind of exponential from there. So I don't want anybody to get discouraged. It takes a while to get to that
Yeah.
first 1,000.
And
TikTok
and
really, the algorithm makes you work for it.
and there are going to be naysayers. There are going to be haters. There are going to be people who try to put you down. And I know that there are times when you want to quit. You want to say, you know what, these guys can just stick it. But then there are days where you just put out more videos, and that's when you got to go at a girl and just keep on going. Um, for you guys out there, you can say the same thing. I mean, at a girl, at a boy, whatever. But the goal is to use that medium, use TikTok, and just be better. And I think you showed all the haters that you can do it, and I think some of them didn't believe that you were a lawyer at first because they're like, wait a minute, who is this person? And it was just wild to see, the reactions of people, because
Right.
they
It
weren't
was
used
really
to
funny
seeing a
too.
military lawyer like that.
Well, yeah. And it was funny too, because people who are sort of new to the content at any iteration would be like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She's clearly never served. And there was this like shift in time between like me needing to sort of defend myself. That was gone pretty early. They're like, who are you? Like, you read her bio? You've looked at her website? Don't you know? Um, and I did a fun video. One of my favorite videos that I did, and it was inspired by another military content creator who I just think the world of. He and I are friends on there. We can communicate back and forth, and his stuff just cracks me up. But one of the videos he did was a little bit more poignant, and it just said, like, you're going to someday look back and not all of these people that you served with are going to be around.
Mm-hmm.
Take more photos, be in photos, like take those memories with you. And it really made me reflect that I just didn't have very many. I don't have very many pictures of me in uniform. I have, some of the highlight reels and that sort of thing. And so I put together this collage of, and it goes through them, and it's to Old School, by like an old Tupac song. But like, when people saw that, it wasn't for the credibility piece of it, but they felt so connected, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, ma'am, you were around with BDUs. That was the Woodland uniform way back, late 90s. I'm like, yeah, I'm old. But it made them, the retirees who follow me and all of that, like, oh, like, you are legit. You
Right.
are one of us,
Yeah.
and since I retired, really kind of letting loose on some of my language and some of the things that I've said. They're like, retirement looks good on you, ma'am, and like, yeah, she's one of us.
Now,
And
has
that
your
part of that community.
videos led to anything in the military being changed?
That's a great question. I think it's harder to decipher at this point if it has. I know that a story that's near and dear to my heart that I have not told on TikTok, which is because it's going to be in the book, that did lead to a substantial and material change in policy, and I'm enormously proud of it. And I tell that story in I think it's chapter 2 of the book, but I didn't certainly realize when I undertook it that it would. And what's been interesting too is that, from that case, from that one representation, I did not realize how many eyes were on the product that came out of it, and how many clients have connected with me and literally said, I do not care what you are going to charge me. You represented that person. I saw what came from that. You're the only one I want. Yeah. So that has definitely had some reverberations.
And I think that, when people hire you, it's not the fact that it costs money, the fact that they know that you're going to fight for them, and you're going to make them better than they were yesterday. I mean, their mentality, their emotions, their everything that they're feeling is going to be so much improved because you're there fighting on their side.
Thank you for that. And that's certainly been the feedback, and that's been, and I think part of even that initial call with a potential client is to say, okay, like you've described the facts and circumstances of what's going on. How are you handling this? This is a lot. And they're, kind of taken aback by that, because I think for all of the improvement and all of the attempts to change sort of the climate and the attitude about behavioral health, I don't believe that enough is being done, right? Culturally. There's this sense of we need to be tough. We need to be in the military. We need to handle our business. Work is work, and I'll deal with my private life in my private life. But when you're put under the stress of an investigation, or, whatever the command is coming at you with, that's a lot. And especially because sense of community and teamwork and camaraderie is such an integral part of what binds us and what attracts us, I think, to military service, that when that becomes, there's a schism there, right? When there's a separation and they feel abandoned and they're like, nobody cares, to have somebody say, how are you? How are you processing this? What is your support structure? How can I be a part of that? Like setting an appropriate boundary that I'm not your therapist, right? But like, there's a reason we're called counselors at law, right? That very critical component of taking care of people. And so when you genuinely and authentically demonstrate to these clients, potential clients, that you care about them as people, they're going to I think it's pretty transformative, because sometimes I get people who are so depressed and so scared and so anxious that they can't meaningfully participate in their defense. It's like a light switch goes off when they realize somebody does care. Somebody other side of that phone or other side of that Zoom cares about them as a person. Then all of a sudden they have hope, and hope breeds change.
Right.
I think that's super critical.
And that hope has also transitioned your firm to hire more people, to bring on more staff, or bring on more lawyers to help more people. Your videos are doing great. Your books are doing great. Everything that you do allows people to be able to find you somewhere, whether it be Facebook, LinkedIn, Google. But they're finding your videos, they're finding your blogs, and they're asking questions. And I think that's the main thing to do is get people just to reach out. They don't know where else to go. Then they see a video or they read a blog, and they're like, wow, yeah, they seem to really know what they're doing. They care. And the people that you hire, they're as caring as you are. I mean, it's
and that's part of it, right? Yeah. I mean, and I think that was so important to me in creating the culture at my firm, was to make sure that we care about people as humans, right? And I think what's been one of the interesting things about TikTok is, you're always aware of lawyer jokes. You're always aware of sort of this lawyer culture where people assume that attorneys are just about money and that's all they care about, and you're just a paycheck to them. I have so many people on TikTok who are like, my favorite lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that, like changing, sort of the mentality about the way that people see lawyers in general. I do get a little disheartened and a little bit sad because I'll see veterans who will say, I wish you were around 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I would have known this then.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to like just kind of put that on the shelf and say, well, now, right? And I've had so many people write to me, send emails, texts, like words of praise of saying, please keep going. Please ignore the trolls. Please ignore the haters, because you have taught me more about the UCMJ than I've learned in 17 years of being in.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. This makes a difference. This is worth the annoying, occasional troll who will say that I look ugly today, or, just insert whatever ridiculous comment. Like it's all there. But that does help keep you going, and creating a team of people who care that deeply, because I'm not going to do this for the rest of my life. I can't. And so at some point I will be handing the reins over, and the future looks good, right? Like the people that I surround myself with, and who, because it's my name and my reputation and everything that I've built over the last 2 decades, that I'm not just going to run a mill, right? I think a lot of people, and it's sort of the typical structure of a law firm is that you have all of these newbies who don't really know anything, but they are your worker bees, and they're going to generate a way for you to get money, and you're going to bill at your name, and it's really just these underlings. And I don't have time to train underlings. I need people
but I think
who are
because
able
of
to just go.
I think because of your success, because of your transition into video, it made it easier for your people to also do video.
Yeah, I think hopefully, and it definitely, I just had a conversation last week with Cody, and he said, he would have never in a million years had the courage to get on TikTok and to be authentic and to be real and to be pushing out content had I not done it.
Mm-hmm.
And they have been resistant. The team has been resistant, but it's also flourished and really produced some just amazing products.
Oh yeah. And I mean, so you're the example that shines bright for the team. You set the tone, you set the mission. But I've never seen you give up. I've never seen you go, you know what, that's it. I've had it. I'm taking a couple weeks off. To hell with them. No, you just get back in the game and you keep going.
So far, so great.
But I think it all stems from the early on attitude that you had to join the military, and for all those that didn't understand or don't know what that means, go and listen to episode 150, because we talk about that.
Right.
And but this episode is mainly about Jocelyn being better than yesterday, and I want every entrepreneur out there to understand that there is going to be ups and downs. There's going to be days where you just don't want to do it, but we all have these devices now. Make videos, tell your stories, and they don't have to be one off. They can be in sequence. Follow Jocelyn. Go on her TikTok, Messy Military Lawyer, and you'll see just binge watch all of them. And just sit there. You'll watch hundreds and hundreds of videos, and you understand how to make videos. At least.
Thank you. No, it's been fun. It's been an interesting and creative outlet for me. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you don't have to make 3 a day. You can make more or less. But I think that there are videos that you have that have hit that million viewer mark. Then there are some that don't get to see the light of day. It's just, I think, how the algorithm works. the story that's being told that day, but it's consistency.
Definitely. Yeah. What's interesting is that my war stories get fewer views than just about anything, but the followership, like the people who deeply appreciate the content are constantly. Then I just got reminded the other day, hey, we haven't had a story in a while. We really like those. Can you do that? And then now people are like, not that one, because I told one that probably disturbed a lot of people. Like, careful what you wish for.
Yeah. But you don't hold back. Granted, you don't always share detailed information, which is, I think, protects the innocent and the guilty. But you give enough information that people can make a decision, but also it comes across as, enhancing your authority as who you are.
Well, and I think, even the losses, right? Because I have certainly told some stories, a couple stories of cases that I've lost. Part of being better than yesterday is taking a lesson from wherever and making it mean something, right? If there was a loss or, even a win. Because if I came away from a case, it was a full acquittal or, insert victory, and I still didn't analyze it, I still didn't, roll it around in my mouth like a good Cabernet and like really come to deeply appreciate it, then I'm still not growing, right? And that is so core to who I am, to constantly be improving, even in the wins, right? There has to be a lesson, there has to be a common thread that you figure out, and if you haven't figured it out, you better keep looking.
But also in that common thread over the course of all those videos, you have also shared with people the types of clients that you really don't want. You've given them indications. You've said, hey, I need to dial it in. These are the people I'm servicing. I'm not going to do your divorce. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do all these things that had nothing to do with UCMJ. And I think people respect that better.
Right. I know. And there have definitely been different points over the last 20 years where I've been advised or pulled or told, oh, you'll never make it if you just do the military cases. You need to also take on some family law that'll keep the lights on. You need to also, take some state cases or some federal cases where you are. And I have always resisted that because I feel so strongly that it's important to do something and to do it really well. And that's been a big criticism that I've had in most of the service branches, that they have not allowed their attorneys to specialize.
Right.
And it's created a need for somebody like me, which I honestly hate. I tell people constantly, I see my job as needing to train myself out of a job, right? It's why I teach at national conferences of uniformed defense attorneys, because I want them to do better. I don't think that service members should have to pay for justice. I think it's regrettable that the majority of the uniformed counsel out there just are not equipped. Doesn't mean I don't think that some of them have the heart for it, right? They want to do it. It's just a matter of experience. I've been able to do the same thing for 20 years. I'm bound to be good at it, hopefully. And if I'm not, I need to, try harder. But yeah, it's been such a part of revisiting to improve and causing those ripple effects to make everything better.
And that is why you're the best.
Thank you.
Any last words you want to
Better than yesterday. Doesn't say best, but better than yesterday.
Any last words you want to give people?
I don't think so. I feel such gratitude to have been encouraged by people like you to get out into the space. I think it enables people, get a little plug, and it levels the playing field for all, right? There's so many different ways, and I think attorneys become frustrated whether they're older school and they think more along the lines of like advertising is evil, right? Because that's definitely a part of legal culture for a very long time. But what I deeply appreciate about TikTok is that it levels the playing field, and every single person who hops on and creates a video has the exact same chance of finding audience and finding community than anybody else. And it has nothing to do with ad dollars, ad spend, Google it. Like, it's everyone's equal. Are you producing something that's authentic that people connect to? Because if you are, the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
And that's
And
why I love it.
videos are searchable. So, what I encourage you to do is also, if you're going to put it on TikTok, put it on YouTube, put it everywhere, put it on Instagram, put it on Facebook, because not everybody's going to get on TikTok, but they will see your
Right.
video on
Transcribe it,
YouTube.
make it into a blog,
Yeah.
all the things that we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And people will find you. But it all starts with making that video. And like I tell people, the first 100 videos, maybe the first 1,000 videos are going to suck. But once you figure out what your groove is, how you're going to tell your stories, and how Jocelyn tells her stories is going to be different than how you tell your stories.
Right.
If you want to curse, if you don't want to curse, if you wherever you want to be when you're making the videos, just make them. So
Selectively.
yeah. So where can people find you on TikTok? Can they go to TikTok, or you have the messymilitary.com? Yeah, URL somewhere.
I've got so many URLs. Yeah. So messymilitarylawyer.com will point you to me, point you to my website. TikTok is my handle there is Messy Military Lawyer. I'm also on Instagram as the Messy Military Lawyer. And of course, LinkedIn, Facebook, all those places.
And if you're a U.S. soldier that needs help, they can go to your website, UCMJ-defender.com.
defender.com. And if they want to go ahead and find, because we make it really easy to schedule. If you plug in the URL and then /schedule, you will pop up and be guided through what kind of issue you have, which attorney, what time slot, what, we service people across the world.
Yeah. And I think, I was on the other day and people from Japan, people from stationed all over the world are asking you questions. And that's just, to me, that is, that's awesome when you're stationed. I mean, you're not stationed, but your office is in Tacoma, Washington, but you're getting clients from all over the world.
Absolutely. And I think it's, in post COVID, but even, just in the digital age, I've been representing people all over for, a dozen years, and you still form connections. Those people become family. It's pretty remarkable.
So everybody, please remember to be better than yesterday. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. And go over and visit Jocelyn at messymilitarylawyer.com. Adios.